All right, Stephen, thanks for joining me here today, my friend. So, for those that are listening, if you could briefly describe your name, where you're from, and a little bit about your operation.
Uh, I'm Stephen Hilricks. I'm from Akron, Iowa. I row crop, hog farm, and have a small cow calf operation.
Awesome. So let's kind of dive into what life looked like before coming into Legacy Farmer. What were some of the problems and challenges that you were facing that ultimately led you to making the decision that you needed to do something different?
Oh, well, for one, I was out of pigs and not a lot of income coming in, and not really knowing where our money was going, and I strongly felt I needed a change.
Would you say it felt like there was a disconnect between the understanding of what the numbers were telling you versus how you felt internally?
Absolutely. Yeah, there was a huge difference. I was like, oh, well, we'll just, go through this until I figure out actually where my numbers stood. And I was like, oh, I really need to get, an overhaul here.
Yeah. How like growing up or even just having the experience, how much truly did you understand or know about finances when it came to actually running the farm like a business?
None. It was I just watched my dad farm, and I just thought that, well, you just put it in the ground, you take it out, you get money. That's just kind of the way it was, or that with raising cattle or hogs too. I mean, I never thought of it as a business. I just thought of it as that was just what you did, so.
Yeah. So what was when you first saw either the ads or Facebook ads or heard about Legacy Farmer, what was it that drew you into what we are doing here?
Funny story. I come across your ad, and my dear departed mother, I think, was talking to me from up above and said, "Hey, man, you need to do this. This is a point in the right direction. Let's get on board." And that's what sold me right away. I just had a gut feeling, and I went with it.
Pretty humbling. So coming into this thing, right away off the bat, our first call, like we're going over the numbers, going over farmer metrics, really analyzing your numbers, but also teaching you what you need to know. So once we went through this process, what's changed since doing this for you?
Uh, knowing where I'm sitting financially, uh, helping me making better business decisions. Uh, Having a knowledge of what I can and can't do with my day-to-day operations, as well as maybe future borrowing with banks.
Mhm. Yeah. So when you go through like build cash flows out and really start to analyze the business, does it feel like you're now looking for the next, towards the next 5, 10, 20 years instead of just focusing on, all right, how do we just get to next year?
Right. Well, before this, I was just going month to month, and I'm seeing this in a lot broader perspective. And let's move it. Let's keep moving it out, and making sure that it's going the right direction.
How many farmers and ranchers do you think operate that way, month to month, day to day, just trying to get through?
A lot, a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. And why do you think a lot of them don't ever change, or why do you think a lot of farmers will stay in that position?
Uh, well, they're comfortable where they're at. Because I was in that same position. You don't not a real huge fan of change. Or otherwise it's something that their parents did, and because their parents did it, it automatically works. Sometimes it don't always work that way. I was kind of in that boat too, and I felt there was a need to change, and I am very happy for what I did.
So if you wouldn't have made the change and you would have been stuck where you were at, 3 months ago when you first came in, where would you be at today?
Oh, unfortunately, I think I'd be done. I really would.
It's a lot to kind of take in, isn't it, to realize how far you've come, but what life would be like if you hadn't made that decision for yourself and for your family and your ultimately your legacy.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
This was definitely a good move.
How much, what has it done to your confidence and your certainty now in your ability as a business owner from what could ever happen? We've got a lot of uncertainty right now in ag. It's just part of what's going to come. But how much more certain do you feel in your ability to really conquer whatever's going to come your way next?
Oh, it's a lot better. Uh, I'm still learning, but it is a lot better. I mean, beforehand, I mean, my anxiety was through the roof. My, just emotions everywhere. Uh, yeah, now I can actually sit down and focus on where I need to go.
And focus again on the next 5 to 10 years. We're getting clear on where you're at right now, what we need to do, restructure some debt, focus on what kind of game plan you want, but then ultimately making the decisions that you need to make to push you forward. Again, how many times have you, and I've done it myself when I farmed too, just sat still because one, I wanted to wanted to avoid the truth. I wanted to avoid the numbers.
Yeah, yeah, right there with you, man. And it's like, oh, this can't be real. I mean, otherwise it'll pass. And you just sitting there with your head in the sand. I mean, then life keeps on moving forward, and if you don't address it, it's gonna run you over.
Yeah, 100%. So we've got people who are looking into legacy farmer. They resonate with the message. They resonate on what they need to do different. We've had some people, they'll sit on the fence for years. We've had members in legacy farmer today. They'll sit on the fence for 2 years before they make the decision. They know they need to do something, but they just don't take that leap. So if somebody were listening to this and they resonate everything with you say, they know they need to make that shift, but they just won't do it. What would you say to that person right now?
Get Take a good hard look into yourself, and you know think of where you're at. I mean, I was I was in the same boat as you guys, and if yeah, it was a very good move. Uh, Knowing what I know now, I would recommend it to 100 people that whether they felt that they needed it or not, I would seriously have them look at it. It is a very good investment.
Awesome. All right, Stephen, that wraps up our conversation today. Thank you for taking the time and appreciate you, man. We're glad to have you in here.
You betcha. Thank you much.
All right, thanks.